Good morning, San Diego. Another week of the Braden Surprenant Show, another Sunday morning to you. Happy St. Patrick's Day to all of you that celebrate, all of you that were out last night celebrating St. Patrick's Day. That will continue that today and throughout the country. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show. Little interruption in the usual national programming to bring you some local sports talk here in America's finest city. And I'm excited to do that. And again, a great opportunity for me to be able to bring you some sports insight, especially involving San Diego teams, San Diego schools, and everything in between. We got a great show planned for you today. A lot of Padres talk on the show. A lot of Padres talk, when it comes to a game that they already played this morning. How many of you were up at 3 a.m. watching the San Diego Padres take on the Korean national team? I don't know. I wasn't up for that, but I did research and watch some of the highlights. Padres beat Korea 1-0 this morning at 3 a.m. They scored 1 run in the bottom of the first inning, and they didn't score the rest of the game. Held Korea to 5 hits total. Padres 1 run, 4 hits, no errors. Korea, no runs, 5 hits, no errors. Winning pitcher was Johnny Brito. He is 1-0, if you will. Moon takes the loss, and Robert Suarez gets his first save, if you will, in this exhibition game. So San Diego, 1 game in, and we'll play another game tonight at 8 o'clock, which you can hear right here on 97.3 The Fan. Team's starting to get put together a little bit. And I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago when I filled in for Annie and Elson about something that Doug Gottlieb used as a reference about roster construction, about a team, and having your opinions once it's finally finished. And what he's talking about is he tells a story, and I think this is relevant again. He tells a story about when him and his wife were remodeling their house. And in the process of remodeling their house, his wife did not like the way one of the rooms looked. Like, this is terrible. This is not what we wanted. This is not what I wanted. This is not a good job. I'm out on this. And Doug said, well, it's not finished yet. The room is not finished. Let them finish the room on the remodel and then talk to me about what you think of the room. Let's save our opinions for when the team is finished. So about a month ago, even a couple of weeks ago, you were looking at this Padres team, and it was very difficult to really gauge what type of team they were going to be. Because they still needed a starting pitcher. They still needed outfield help. They still need, maybe some bench pieces. And they traded away Juan Soto, and this offseason's terrible. And the Padres, on paper look like a 4th place team. I was saying all of that as well. But you really couldn't grade the team, and still can't grade the team until you get that official opening day roster in a couple of days when they take on the Dodgers in Korea at 3 a.m. And even then, the roster's a little bit different before opening day when they come home and play the Giants a week from that. Why am I bringing this up? Well, the Padres added DylanCease last week. That's one reason. And the second reason, as we got a report from Bob Nightingale in the USA Today, the San Diego Padres and outfielder Tommy Pham are moving closer to reuniting on a 1-year, $3 to $4 million deal. Pham earned $8 million last season, including incentives, while helping lead the Diamondbacks to the World Series. He played for the Padres in 2020 and in 2021. The Chicago White Sox have interest in Pham if his potential deal with the Padres hits a snag. That would be a nice pickup for San Diego. To get Tommy Pham back in a Padres uniform. Would that complete this team? No, but it makes it a lot better. And I think you could start to evaluate what this Padres team looks like a little bit more as the room is starting to come together. This remodeled room is starting to come together. I didn't think the Padres really had any interest in DylanCease. I mean, obviously, who wouldn't have interest in DylanCease? But I didn't think that was a move that could be made for the Padres. Didn't know they were talking about it. And last week, they go and they get an ace-level pitcher, regardless if he's going to be the ace of the staff or not. They get an ace-level pitcher in DylanCease. That drastically changes the outcome and probably the expectations of most Padres fans. Those for me. I thought for sure they'd probably be a fourth-place team. They'd be battling with the Giants for third place, depending on if the Giants were able to sign BlakeSnell or not, which that's still in the conversation. We're going to get to that in just a second. But it changed the outlook. It changed the excitement level, I think, for the Padres season, getting a guy like him. Because now you got 4 starters. You go from having a starting rotation that could get you to the playoffs to a starting rotation that can get you through the playoffs. That's a major difference in Major League Baseball. You got 3 top starters or 3 starters that are solid, you could make the playoffs. But once you get into playoff mode and you need pitching, and more pitching, as we saw with this Padres team in 2022, that 4-starter became a huge issue for San Diego. It was Sean Manaea and Mike Clevenger trying to get you a win against the Dodgers and the Phillies, and both of those games were disasters. Now, it's probably Michael King. I'll take my chances. So you go from a rotation that could get you to the playoffs to a rotation that can get you through the playoffs. That's a major upgrade right there. Let's talk about Tommy Pham a little bit more. I don't mind Tommy Pham. I thought his issue he had with one of the Padres fans was kind of ridiculous on both parties. I think both parties were at fault there. We've seen the animosity. We've seen kind of some of the hate that the Padres fans have given Tommy Pham throughout the years. But I'm telling you right now, this Padres team is better with Tommy Pham out there in left field than it is without Tommy Pham out there in left field. And it gives you another bench piece because it either moves Profar to the bench or you split time with Pham and Profar in left field. It gets you more veteran leadership. It gets you that hard-nosed player that will keep guys in line, that will show some of the young guys how to play. And here's the other thing with Tommy Pham, because a lot of people are like, that don't know Tommy Pham, want to say how much Tommy Pham is like a cancer to the team. He's not. Go down in that clubhouse and see how the players all attract around Tommy Pham. They love Tommy Pham. He's one of the guys. The players on the previous teams loved Tommy Pham. I know he had that issue with Hassan Kim in Chicago. The guy wants to win. He's hard-nosed. He wants to win. And he's a good veteran bat. And I think he's gotten better since having that eye surgery. I'd like to see Tommy Pham in a Padres uniform. That gives you more versatility. It gives you more veteran leadership. It gives you more experience. Gives you better opportunities. You could play around with the lineup a little bit more. And for only $3 to $4 million, if the Padres are able to sign him, round of applause for AJ Preller for what he has been able to do this offseason with the budget that he's had. They needed a starting pitcher. They went and got a starting pitcher that cost him $8 million. We could talk about prospect capital in just a little bit, but the reality is you're trying to stay under the CBT and you needed a starter and an outfielder. And if you could get DylanCease for $8 million and Tommy Pham for $3 to $4 million on a 1-year deal, then all of a sudden you still have the ability to make a move at the trade deadline and not go over the CBT. That's fantastic. That's great news. So if the Padres can pull those two moves off, well, they already pulled one of them off, but if they can pull the Tommy Pham move off, I change my outlook again on this Padres team. And we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. We're going to talk about, the season outlook for this Padres team, kind of break down the roster. I think if you sign Tommy Pham, it puts less pressure on Jackson Merrill. I saw this today in Nightingale's piece talking about Jackson Merrill. Scouts have been enamored by the rising progress of shortstop Jackson Merrill, who has played only 46 games above Class A, none in AAA, and now will be the Padres' opening day center fielder. He has shown tremendous discipline at the plate, just putting the ball in play. This is the best part, he'll be just the third center fielder to start on opening day before the age of 21 in baseball history, joining Hall of Famer Ken Griffey Jr. and Andrew Jones, who has been on the Hall of Fame ballot a couple of times. That's some pretty good company to be in. That's some high expectations. And so far, he has done a great job. Now, I have nothing against Jackson Merrill. I do have something against the Padres for rushing him up because they need somebody there and they want to stay cheap. I don't think they're necessarily saying that he's earned a spot because he's outplayed veteran players. But I will say this. If he could be what he's doing in spring training, the Padres are making the playoffs. It's not even close. It's not even a question. But we have to be patient with this kid because he is going to fail at the major league level eventually. He is going to go through a slump. Everybody does. And you can't get on him too much about that. You're going to have to let him fail, figure out how to adjust to the major leagues, and then let him succeed. And if he can make that adjustment, he's going to have a good time. But it takes the pressure off Jackson Merrill if you add Tommy Pham to this lineup. The downside of adding Tommy Pham to this lineup is it still doesn't address the fact that you really have no left-handed bats. Profar's a switch hitter, and Jake Cronenworth is your best. He is your best left-handed hitter. He needs to have a big year. He needs to have a really big year for the Padres to be successful. We'll see what Jake Cronenworth's got. He went 0 for 3 this morning with a walk. Not that it really matters. Still an exhibition game. But Jake Cronenworth really is the main key to this cog of 2024. We'll go through the lineup. We'll go through kind of season predictions for the San Diego Padres. We're going to do regular season predictions when it comes to like the entire Major League Baseball season coming up tomorrow on Andy and Elston. But we'll dive into this Padres team. I'm excited. My excitement level has gone up a little bit more with the addition of Tommy Pham. I think you can roll with this roster and make the postseason, and I think you can win some games in the postseason. The last couple of days, we've been sizing up teams in the National League with the Padres in terms of competition for playoff spots. I said it a month ago. Start looking at some of these teams. The Padres have a better roster than them. As much as we want to be doom and gloom about the Padres in 2024, and I've been there in the group, realistically, especially with the addition of Cease, and even if you add the addition of Tommy Pham, hopefully, that's not a done deal yet, even though they're moving closer to it. There's not a lot of teams in the National League that are better than the Padres, aside from the ones that are already going to win their division. And I said that about a month ago on this show. And it still holds true to this moment. What are your excitement level, Padres fans? What is your excitement level? Did it change with DylanCease? I'm going to break down the DylanCease trade, too, later on. That's a great move for the Padres on so many different levels. And I saw that, graded as a 3-team trade. I think the Padres make out on the Yankees, White Sox, Padres 3-team trade. I mean, Yankees fans are going to be like, well, we won. We got Juan Soto. I mean, great. Juan Soto's going to have to carry your team. Your team already has most of their players in the infirmary. But as we get closer to that exhibition game this Wednesday. Or sorry, the first game this Wednesday in Korea. Couple of days away. How excited are you for the season now compared to last week, compared to a month ago? 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Want to get to hear from you fans. We're going to talk some Aztec basketball as well. Today is Selection Sunday. It's a great day of the year. One of the best days of the year, Selection Sunday. Love it. We have had some chaos. I mean, absolute chaos in the conference tournaments. Love that song. Love it. Selection Sunday today at 3 o'clock. We'll see where the Aztecs are going. I have the latest predictions according to Joe Lunardi. We have a very interesting bubble coming up with bubble teams. There are no more bid stealers out there, but there were a lot throughout the time of conference tournament weekend. We had some interesting tournaments. Coaches getting fired for the tournaments and then winning those tournaments. Other coaches on the hot seat winning conferences and then getting a 2-year contract extension because it was already included in the contract if they won the conference tournament. So much chaos. That's what makes March fun. That's what makes college basketball fun. We're going to talk about that in the next hour. We're also going to talk about college football playoff expanding to 14 teams again. I said it before when it comes to the college football model. I remember many a times the lights turned off on me. In college, I would say they need a playoff and people are like, "Whoa, the bowls, like everybody likes the bowl games. Everybody likes the bowl games, whatever." College football people or the powers that be finally woke up to the fact that they can make probably more money with a playoff than the bowl system, and all of a sudden they can't get enough. And before they even play one snap of a 12-team playoff, they've already expanded it to 14 teams in 2026. That's ridiculous. We're going to talk about that a little bit later as well. But more Padres talk. What did the Padres do this morning? Get a full recap on how the Padres did against Team Korea. When we come back, this is the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local on the weekends on 97.3 The Fan. Welcome back to the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local on the weekends. San Diego's number one sports station, 97.3, The Fan. A lot to talk about when it comes to the San Diego Padres. Happy St. Patrick's Day to all of you that celebrate. I don't have really any Irish in my in my system, if you will. Mostly Italian, so don't really participate in St. Patrick's Day as much as everybody else. But I will be doing some corned beef today. I'm a fan of the corned beef and cabbage. It's not bad. I think we're going to do some corned beef sliders today, triggering some corned beef brisket, which is always a good time. Anything aside from like my first name being Irish, Braden is an Irish first name. There's nothing about me that is Irish. So it's tough to be like the diehard St. Patrick's Day participant as a non-Irish lad. But that being said, happy St. Patrick's Day to all of you that celebrate. I know we saw some in the chat. Here we go. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patrick's Day. I guess he did it for both. I do want to talk about the San Diego Padres. Had a game today. They played today against the Korean national team. And here was the results of this game as they beat Korea 1-0. A little bit of a tune-up game, if you will, for the Padres, an exhibition, trying to adapt to playing in Korea, get on the same clocks. San Diego Padres won 1-0 over to Korea. They scored that one run in the first inning. That first inning for the Padres, Xander walked, Fernando walked, Cronenworth walked. Had the bases loaded and nobody out. Machado struck out looking for the first out. Kim popped up to shortstop for the second out. And then a wild pitch by Dongju Moon scored Xander. Bogarts advanced everybody else 90 feet. And then Jerickson Profar worked a walk to load the bases back up. And then Camposano struck out swinging to end the inning. And the Padres only scored one run. That being said, they ended up winning the game 1-0. Again, these games don't really matter, but nice little tune-up games for you. Aside from that, Padres offensively, that didn't really do too much. Tatis had a hit. He had a single later on in the ball game. He finished the day 1 for 3 with a walk. Bogarts 0 for 2 with a run scored. He did walk twice. Not bad of the leadoff guy, and I know that's been an interesting point of contention for a lot of Padres fans. Where does Xander hit? Where does Fernando hit? They've been flip-flopping 1 and 2. I don't mind either, to be honest. I mean, I'd rather have Fernando bat leadoff just because he's more deadly on the base paths. But Xander's going to have professional at bats. He's going to run up pitch counts and he's going to get some good pitches to hit. And I think he's a nice little leadoff guy as well. Just obviously when he gets on base, he doesn't have the speed like Fernando does, but he's done a pretty good job in that leadoff spot so far in spring training. Jake Cronenworth 0 for 3 with a walk. Machado 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts. Not a good day for Machado at the plate as he tries to battle back from a procedure during the offseason. So hopefully he can bounce back tonight at 8 o'clock Pacific time when the Padres will play the Twins of Korea. It would be the LG Twins in the KBO. Hassan Kim 1 for 4 with a strikeout. Profar 0 for 2. He did walk and punch out. Azekar 0 for 1. Camposano 0 for 3 with a punch out. Tyler Wade got to start at third base. He was 0 for 3 with a strikeout. And then batting ninth and starting center field was Jackson Merrill. He was 2 for 3 today for the San Diego Padres. Overall, Padres were 4 for 28 with a run scored, 5 walks, 8 strikeouts. Team was 0 for 8 with runners in scoring position. They left 8 on base. And that's basically it in terms of the offense. In terms of the pitching staff, Brito did a pretty good job. I mean, the entire pitching staff did a good job. They pitched, shutout ball against the Korean national team. Johnny Brito got the dub. He went 2 innings, no runs, 1 hit, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts. Kolak came in. He pitched an inning, got a strikeout. Estrada pitched an inning with a strikeout. Matsui, it was good to see him back out there and competing. He went an inning, gave up a walk. Cosgrove, inning, 2 strikeouts. De Los Santos, inning, 1 hit. Peralta, inning, 2 hits. And Suarez, an inning, 1 hit, 1 walk. and the save for the Padres. And that was it. Time of the ball game was 2 hours and 28 minutes. Played in front of 12,497 at the Goshen Sky Dome. First pitch was at 3:07 this morning, 7:07 p.m. Korea time. And that was the look at the Padres' first game today. They will play again, as I mentioned, at 8 o'clock later tonight. And hopefully we'll give you updates. That game will also be on the air, 97.3 The Fan, to be tuned into that as they get ready for regular season action coming up on Wednesday. There are some news and notes that are very notable around Major League Baseball, aside from the Padres and the Tommy Pham news, which we'll rehash when we come back, but also some BlakeSnell news. Sounds like he wants to stay on the West Coast. There's a team in the AL West that would really love to have him part of their team, but are kind of balking at the asking price. Is BlakeSnell still asking for too much money as we get days away from opening day for the Padres and Dodgers and almost a week out from opening day for everybody in Major League Baseball? We'll talk about that. Plus, Padres 2024 season preview. I think this team's a lot better than it was before. And as I mentioned in my open, don't judge the remodel until the remodel is done. I don't want to know your opinion on the room that's getting remodeled until the room is done. Padres still in a little bit of remodeling mode, but the team's starting to come together. We'll talk about that when we come back. The Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Braden Surprenant show live and local each and every Sunday from 8 to 10. Thanks for making our day a part of yours and your morning. If you're going to church, if you're going to get breakfast as a family, if you're going to some youth events, we appreciate you tuning in to live and local sports talk on Sunday mornings. A little bit different than the usual mundane national news. Yeah, I get it. Justin Fields was traded yesterday, which I thought was very significant. I don't know what the Steelers are doing, but I don't need to spend the entire show on that because nobody here cares as much as the Padres, who played a game this morning. We mentioned again, it was a 1-0 victory for them over Team Korea, which is fine. I think they're acclimating to playing on the other side of the world, of course. It's a very difficult thing to do. And so hopefully they'll be ready to go by the time they take on the Dodgers on Wednesday morning. We're going to talk more about the Aztecs in the next hour, as we had a couple of comments about that in the chat. Chance, who called into the show last week. Let's talk about how the Aztecs choked. They aren't ready for the madness this year. First round knockout if they get their number called. Are you saying they're not going to make the tournament if they get their number called? I mean, they're going to be in the tournament. They're probably going to get a 6 seed now, which kind of sucks. They should be anywhere between a 4 and a 5. I thought if they won the Mountain West, they should have gotten a 4 seed. I think they should probably get a 5, but we know that the East Coast powers that be probably don't value the Mountain West as much as they should be valued, even though they're going to get 6 teams in today. I don't know. I think it depends on the matchup. I think the thing that's interesting with college basketball, we're going to get to this in the next segment, is the fact that it's wide open. And you could tell because none of the 1 seeds are winning their tournaments. Purdue is out. They lost last night. Houston got rolled by Iowa State. North Carolina didn't win their conference tournament. Tennessee was an early exit in the SEC tournament. I mean, you start going down the list. There wasn't a lot of 1 seeds that won. In the Pac-12, Arizona lost in the semis. Mountain West Conference, number 1. San Diego State ran them out of the building in Utah State. Going into Saturday night, or Friday night, actually, I think there's like 30-something conferences. Out of those 30 conferences, 16 1 seeds didn't make the final. / didn't win their tournament. I think that says more about what conference tournaments are, more so than some of the teams that are in it. But that being said, I think it's a wide open contest this year in March Madness. UConn and Houston are pretty legit. But you saw Houston get exposed yesterday. Now, that being said, Houston didn't play all of their guys for a lot of minutes because at the end of the day, the conference tournament didn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. Unless you're in a 1-bid league, it means nothing. And even in a 1-bid league, it's so dumb because you could be the best team in your conference the entire year, and then one team gets hot over the weekend, and they're going to the NCAA tournament, and you're sitting at home. Like Long Beach State, good for them. Their head coach is fired. Before the conference tournament, he's allowed to coach in it. They go on a run, and they end up winning the conference tournament. Now they're going to be in the NCAA tournament. They'll get rolled in their first game, almost guaranteed. There's really no guarantees in March Madness because you never know what's going to happen. That's why it's impossible to pick brackets. And that's why people like picking based on what their cat or dog did or like flipping a coin have a better chance probably at winning any type of bracket challenge than anybody that watches college basketball religiously does. And you see that all the time. Well, we're going to talk more about that at 9 o'clock. I mentioned to start the show, we had this news this morning. 97 through the fan tweeted it out, but it's from an article in the USA Today by Bob Nightingale about some nuggets around the league. I mean, the main part of the article is about, you know, the nostalgia of the ESPN broadcast crew going out to Korea to do the game for the Padres and the Dodgers this week and going back to the 2020 year where the KBO was playing and nobody else was, and they were broadcasting games at like 2 or 3 in the morning, yada, yada. But around the end of all Bob Nightingale articles, he has Around the Base Pass. And Around the Base Pass is just some kind of local news and notes around Major League Baseball. Not local, but news and notes around Major League Baseball. San Diego Padres and outfielder Tommy Pham are moving closer to reuniting on a 1-year, $3 million to $4 million deal. Pham earned $8 million last season, including incentives, while helping the Diamondbacks get to the World Series. He played for the Padres in 2020 and 2021. White Sox have interest in Pham if his potential deal with the Padres hit a snag. I find that very significant, obviously. I think that really changes the roster, and I'm going to tell you about that in just a second. But I do want to mention some other notes. 2-time Cy Young Award winner BlakeSnell, former Padre, who's still out on the market, has informed the Astros that he's willing to sign a short-term deal to join the team, but is seeking at least a 2-year guarantee for $66 million that includes an opt-out after the 2024 season. The Astros are intrigued, club officials say, but they are the latest team to balk at his asking price. The Astros, who began exchanging proposals with agent Scott Boras earlier in the week, are waiting to see if the price tag drops. The Astros' concern is that they will be over their third luxury tax threshold if they sign Snell. Where have I heard that one before? They have a projected luxury payroll of $256 million, according to Cott's contracts, and will eclipse the second tax threshold of $277 million, which is a 45% surcharge if they sign Snell to a contract exceeding $20 million a year. The Giants remain in the picture for Snell, but also are waiting for Snell to lower his demands, just as they did when they signed third baseman Matt Chapman to a 3-year, $52 million contract with opt-outs after each year. It's very interesting the way these teams are really under some serious pressure of the luxury tax, and all the teams that are interested in potentially adding a guy like BlakeSnell don't want to do it because they can't afford him anymore because of the luxury tax penalties. So I guess the luxury tax is theoretically doing its job to an extent, but I'm curious to see when BlakeSnell is going to sign. I mean, we're getting down to the nitty-gritty right now when it comes to opening day, just right around the corner. Here's the other thing I do want to mention before we break down this Padres roster and kind of give a quick preview of the 2024 season. It does involve the Padres. It's very interesting. It's in Bob Nightingale's piece in USA Today. What was more impressive? Dodger star Shohei Ohtani slept 11 of the 12-and-a-half-hour flight to South Korea, which, I mean, that is pretty impressive. Or new San Diego Padres pitcher DylanCease, after finding out he was traded, scrambling to find his passport, packing up all of his belongings at his Phoenix rental condo, shipping his car to San Diego, going to the Padres complex to work out, and then flying to Los Angeles and then to Seoul, South Korea to meet his new teammates. What a whirlwind for DylanCease after being traded to the Padres. I mean, most trades, you just jump on a flight and you're in your new organization. I mean, if it happens in spring training, you just go down the street. You're going to a new complex now. Very easy. DylanCease gets traded right before the Padres leave to Korea, and now all of a sudden it's just getting all of his affairs in order in a mad dash situation. That's insane. That's insane. Let's talk about DylanCease. I love the pickup for the Padres. I really do. I think he's a great pitcher. I think he's got the potential to be an ace. He's already shown that with the White Sox. I know last year he had a little bit of a down year, but he also dealt with a little bit of an injury last year as well. And he still had some pretty good stuff. Plus, the defense behind him in the White Sox organization is so subpar. It's not even funny. He goes from one of the worst defensive teams and good hitter parks to one of the best defensive teams and best pitchers parks to pitch in all of Major League Baseball. I just think from that standpoint, it's going to be a little bit of a bounce back. But I love this addition to the Padres and this kind of remodeled sense of the Padres organization and their roster that we talked about in the open. You can't judge a project until the project is finished. And that's why it was so hard during these last couple of weeks to basically say what the Padres are going to be like. What do you think about the Padres? Well, I don't know. Their roster is incomplete. Adding DylanCease makes it a lot better. That definitely fills a role. And then if they could potentially sign Tommy Pham, which it sounds like they're close to a $3 to $4 million deal, they're even closer to putting the final touches of the paint in this remodeled room, where you can finally make your assessment, make your judgment. They said if you look at the Padres, White Sox, and Yankees, and look at the trades that they've made as a 3-team trade, right? Where the Yankees get Soto and Grisham, the White Sox get Thorpe, Iriarte, Wilson. I'm blanking on the last name that they got. And then the Padres got Brito, Cease, Vazquez, Higashioka. And I think that's ended up being it after they traded away Drew Thorpe. But you look at Michael King. You look at the trade distribution. I think the Padres win that trade in a 3-team trade. I really do. Sure, you lose Juan Soto, and the Yankees fans are excited about Juan Soto, but the reality is Juan Soto is going to have to carry the Yankees this year because of all the injuries. One, they've already suffered, and two, we already know they're probably going to have to deal with because of the same players that are constantly hurt in the Yankees organization. The pickup of Cease does a lot of different things. It turns your playoff making rotation into a playoff advancing rotation. Padres jumped up to the 7th best rotation in Major League Baseball according to Fangraphs. I would agree with that. I think it's a top 10 rotation now. I mean, number 5 is going to be a little bit of a crapshoot. I know it's going to be either Vazquez, Brito, or Waldron. But when you look at the Juan Soto trade before they acquired DylanCease, I think a lot of Padres fans were upset. I was one of those fans as well. The whole point in trading Juan Soto was to create more money space. Can't say cap space, not really a cap, but more CBT space to fix all the other holes that you had on your team. And the Padres, up until that trade with DylanCease, had not done that. Now, using Drew Thorpe and a couple other pitchers for the Padres to get DylanCease, that makes the Juan Soto trade 10 times better. You traded Juan Soto, you brought in DylanCease. It's a star for a star. It pushes people back, maybe into the bullpen and a long relief. That makes your bullpen a lot better. It makes your starting rotation a lot better. With the addition of Tommy Pham, all of a sudden, and that's not official yet, but they're getting closer to potentially reuniting on a 1-year deal with Tommy Pham, as I mentioned before. It makes your lineup better. It makes your bench better. Your outfield got a lot better. Less pressure on Jackson Merrill. This team is starting to come together a little bit on the roster side. And you never know what A.J. Preller has up his sleeve, but both of these moves do a couple of things. They save money where you stay underneath the CBT, which is the plan all along. I mentioned that months ago. That's a big plus right there. The second thing it does is it talks about added needs that the Padres had. So you address glaring needs and you're saving money. But also, you don't use up all of the money that you had. Correct. It was Zavala. They traded Zavala to the White Sox. You still have wiggle room with the CBT at the trade deadline. That's fantastic. So many great things that come about with these moves. I mean, $3 to $4 million for Tommy Pham. Perfect. The only thing that they're lacking right now is a left-handed hitter. That's basically it. That's the only thing that they're lacking right now is a real left-handed hitter. They have Jake Cronenworth. He is your best left-handed hitter, but you're going to need somebody else. And that might have to be a deadline pickup. But as constructed, we talked about it multiple times. We, as Padres organization, not really we, but the Padres organization, as constructed, is good enough to make the postseason, and all you got to do is look at their competition. We know the Dodgers are probably going to win the division, and even make and if they don't, they make the playoffs 100%, unless something catastrophic happens. But here's the thing: winning the division doesn't really matter. I said that a couple years ago. It doesn't matter, especially if you could beat them in a playoff situation, which they did in 2022. So they're already in. Braves are already in, most likely to not, either as a division winner or a wild card. The Central's kind of a crapshoot, but I'm going to give the edge to the Cardinals right now. I guess the Cubs could probably be there as well. And then the Phillies are probably going to make the playoffs. That's 4 of the 6 spots. You got 2 spots left, and it's the Padres, the Diamondbacks, and the Giants. It's the whoever doesn't win between the Cubs and the Cardinals, because I don't think the Brewers are going to be very good. And then in the East, it's the Marlins and the Nationals and the New York Mets. Are you afraid of any of those teams? I mean, are any of those teams better than the Padres right now constructed? Like, absolutely beyond better than the Padres? The answer is no. The answer to that question is no. They're in a good spot. The Padres are. This team's starting to come together. If they're able to get Tommy Pham on this roster, which it sounds like they're close to, they're going to be in real good shape. And I'm not saying World Series, obviously. I'm just saying from a playoff perspective, this team it's coming along. You're starting to change your opinion on the room as it's being built in the remodel. Starting to look a lot better. Starting to look like what you thought it was going to look like. With some young guy help, with the catching situation set, with a top 10 rotation in baseball, with arguably one of the best bullpens in baseball, with a lot of bullpen depth. I know you gave up some of those pieces in this latest trade, but the bullpen's still stacked. Got a good outfield now. Infield's fantastic. You got veterans, you got young guys. I like the construction of this team. Getting more and more excited for the game coming up on Wednesday against the Dodgers. Hopefully the Padres can split in Korea. When we come back, we're going to talk a little Aztec basketball into Selection Sunday. College football playoff changed their amount of teams in. Lots to talk about. Braden Surprenant Show, live and local. San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Hour number 2 of the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local here on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. And thanks for making our day a part of yours, our morning a part of yours on this St. Patrick's Day on a Sunday. It's also Selection Sunday. Looking forward to that coming up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. See where everybody is going to be seated. Excuse me. As we have last minute's final conference championship games today in the conference tournaments. We're going to get to some Aztec basketball here in just a little bit. Do want to mention all of our shows are archived and posted on the Odyssey app. We're also live online. You can follow us on social media at 97 through the Fan SD. You can follow me on social media at B_SURP. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at BSurp, as well as YouTube at B_SURP. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube page as well. We are broadcasting live on the Fans YouTube page, my YouTube page, on my Twitter account, Fans Twitter account, Fans Facebook, Fans Instagram, and on the Fan Twitch account. Thanks to EC Money tuning in on Twitch. See you in the chat. And thanks again for everybody chiming in the chat as well. This guy was up at 3 in the morning watching the game this morning because it was his birthday. It's going to be my birthday on Wednesday. And whether or not I wake up or stay up for the Padres game against the Dodgers on Wednesday is a game time decision. Definitely a game time decision. But like I said, everything is live and local on the weekends here on Sunday mornings from 8 to 10. Grateful for the opportunity. Love to be able to talk sports with you guys. If you want to join the show today, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Lots to talk about when it comes to the Padres. If you missed any of the first hour, you could rewind on the Odyssey app. You could also see it online as we post all of our hours on there as well. Be sure to subscribe to the Braden Surprenant Show on all of your podcast platforms. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We are on every podcast platform. And you can subscribe to the show. Give us a like, give us a review, give us a 5-star rating, all of that stuff. Be sure to do that. And if you missed any of the first hour, which we dove deep into the Padres last night, or in the first hour, dove deep into the Padres in their couple of games. If you want to check out that, we will. It's posted online. Let's get to some San Diego State basketball. Yesterday, tough loss for the Aztecs. Happy birthday to Eric, by the way. Turned 61, as he mentioned. Aztecs lost to New Mexico yesterday, 68-61. They were down 36-30 at half, and were outscored by 1 in the second half, 32-31. As far as the box score, Jaden Ledee led the way per usual. He was a perfect 11 for 11 on the free throw line. Getting to the free throw line is going to be key for him. I think it's going to happen in the NCAA tournament. As long as he doesn't run into a blue blood. You know, they run into a blue blood, you never know. The one thing you don't want to see with Ledee is the same thing that happened to Kawhi. Remember when Kawhi Leonard and the Aztecs made it to the Sweet 16? They played Kemba Walker, a.k.a. Kemba Flopper, and Kawhi Leonard had like 2 fouls in the first 2 minutes of the game, and all of a sudden Kawhi Leonard was out for most of the game in a very important game for the Aztecs. San Diego State needs to avoid that as much as possible. We went 11 for 11 for the free throw line for Jaden Ledee, 7 for 12 from the field, 25 points, 6 rebounds, total, 2 assists. Had a really good night. J-Pal, 8 points, good contribution. Micah Parrish had a good contribution with 7 points. Darian Trammell only 3 points. And Lamont Butler had 7. Bench had 11 total. Overall, decent performance out of the Aztecs, but a tough loss for them as they will not hang any banners for the season. Did not win the regular season. Came in 5th place in the conference, and they came in 2nd in the conference tournament. House might be one of the most annoying players in the history of college basketball for New Mexico, but got to give the guy credit. He had 28 points, 5 rebounds, played 36 minutes last night. Mashburn also had 21 points, and Toppin had 13. I mean, their 3 best players put up some serious points, where the Aztecs got most of theirs from one player and then kind of some contributions mixed throughout. They're going to have to see J-Pal play a little bit more consistent in the NCAA tournament, and Micah Parrish and Darian Trammell and Lamont Butler, they have all done a good job throughout the season, but it's been so up and down for this Aztec basketball team, aside from Ledee. I mean, Ledee, you know what you're going to get out of Ledee every single night. He's been that Kawhi Leonard, that Xavier Thames, that go-to player that the Aztecs have always had. And the thing that made him so good last year is they had all this extra depth. This year, they do have depth, but it's not as big, not as much depth as it was last year, which gives them probably in a spot where if they make the Sweet 16, I would say it's a successful season. You know they were going to kind of fall a little bit this year, just because it's going to be tough to always it's always tough to repeat and to get back to the Final Four. It's so hard to get to the Final Four in general. But I think if they don't make it to the Sweet 16, it's a disappointing season for San Diego State. I had somebody ask me the other day whether or not San Diego State was in a down year. They're not in a down year. It's not a down year for the Aztecs, but it's definitely not, or like a rebuild year. It's just not I don't know. If they had this year last year without a run to the Final Four, would we be thinking differently about this Aztec team? Maybe. But I do think it's a little disappointing, but I wouldn't say it's a rebuilding year for San Diego State by any means. I mean, they still have the ability to go on a little bit of a run. Latest bracketology for the Aztecs. They've dropped now to a 6 seed, which I think is kind of ridiculous. But, you know, you got to give South Carolina, Florida, BYU, and Wisconsin the 5 seeds because they're all in Power 5 conferences. So the Aztecs listed as a 6 seed, potentially in Omaha, would take on Drake, who would almost be the home team there. Baylor, the 3 seed, and Oakland, the 14. That Baylor team's really good. And that would be a tough battle for San Diego State if they have to go against Baylor. If they're going to be a 6 seed, they're looking at Baylor, Illinois, Creighton, Auburn as potential matchups in the second round. You know, maybe a Duke, maybe a Kansas. I don't think Kansas is going to get a 3 seed. Maybe an Alabama or maybe a Kentucky. But that would be more likely if San Diego State gets a 5 seed. At this point in time, if you're San Diego State and you're a San Diego State fan, all you really care about is where you're playing. If you're a 5 seed, you're probably going to play in Spokane or Salt Lake. If you're a 6 seed, you're going to have to travel a little bit. Omaha is not the worst, but it could be better. And you're looking for, when they announce these teams and they announce these brackets, you're hoping San Diego State is in the West region, no matter what the seed is. I'd rather the Aztecs get a 7 seed in the West than be a 5 seed in the East. At that point, the seeding doesn't matter. It's basic. It's just about location. Yeah, Chance, the thing is, dude, is this thing is a crapshoot this year because everybody's so evenly matched. I mean, Baylor got ran out of the building by Houston the other night. By Iowa State. I know Iowa State's a really good team. I mean, I've seen Baylor play this year. San Diego State could beat Baylor. San Diego State, the thing that's weird about San Diego State, they're good enough to beat a good team like Baylor or Illinois, but they're also have the ability to lose to Drake if they don't show up and play their best game. I mean, we've seen them play, beat Gonzaga on the road. They beat Kentucky. It's such a wide open year. I mean, you just don't know what you're going to get with all these schools. There's no dominant team in college basketball this year unless it's UConn, Houston. Those are kind of the two, but both of those teams are vulnerable. And we've seen it. So I do like San Diego State's chances in the NCAA tournament to potentially make the Sweet 16. Depends who the matchups are, obviously, and depends on the region. I'm looking for a West region for SDSU. That's what we're looking for. Because if they can win a game, if they can win 2 games, they can get to Los Angeles, have almost a home crowd. Aztec fans have been traveling really well. And we'll see what they could do. But they're going to have to get better play out of their role players, and it can't just be Jaden Ledee. The other benefit, here's the other benefit chance of why they could do well, is Ledee could shoot like 25 free throws because in the NCAA tournament, it's officiated like it's youth basketball. I mean, any type of contact in the NCAA tournament, you're shooting at the line. You're shooting at the line. The Big 12 and the Big East throughout the entire year are playing 1990s NBA, just physical basketball. And then you get to the tournament, and all of a sudden, everything's a foul. That's why some of these schools in these big conferences, that's why they don't all make it very far. The officiating difference between the regular season and the postseason for the NCAA tournament are ridiculous. So one of two things can happen. Either Ledee has 2 fouls in the first 3 minutes, or Ledee's shooting at the free throw line constantly because he's drawing contact, and getting himself a chance. Odds are high chance for them to be in the West region. Odds are very high for them to be in the West region. They've played really well. I think they're going to be in the West. If they're not in the West, hopefully they're in the South. Going to Dallas isn't that big of a deal for San Diego State, especially nowadays with flights. That's a quick, 2.5 hour flight nowadays. I am a little bit more worried about TCU since they continue to plummet on this bracketology thing. I mean, it's the first time, it'd be the first time where the 10 seeds would be in the first 4 because of all of these ridiculous bid stealers out there. But again, it just goes to show you how much of a crapshoot this year's NCAA tournament is. There's no dominant team. Start breaking down all of the top seeds. UConn and Houston are probably the best of the group. And we've seen both of them lose. I mean, Houston got destroyed last night by Iowa State. Purdue is Zach Edey. I mean, Zach Edey, this is how dumb this game was. Wisconsin ended up beating Purdue. But if you look at the box score last night, I mean, the amount of free throws Zach Edey had was ridiculous. Ridiculous. Look at the box score last night of Wisconsin, 76-75 victory over Purdue. Zach Edey had 19 free throw attempts. The entire Wisconsin basketball team had 9. That's ridiculous. How does a player have 19 free throw attempts and the other team has 9? I mean, are you kidding me? That's the one downside about basketball, especially college basketball. It's too highly influenced by officiating. Because everything is a subjective call. It's not cut and dry what a foul is. 19 free throws for Zach Edey, 9 free throws for Wisconsin. That is stupid. Purdue was 24 for 32 from the free throw line. Wisconsin was 5 for 9. Wisconsin won 76-75 in overtime. But this love affair of Zach Edey is ridiculous. They are an overrated basketball team, Purdue is, and they'll be an early exit just like they were last year. Because Zach Edey is just big. He's just bigger than everybody else, and he gets foul calls. But last year they got exposed because Zach Edey's not athletic. He's just a big guy. That's why he didn't go to the NBA, because he has no future in the NBA. He's a player that's going to be playing internationally for a long time if he wants to continue his basketball career. He's not like a big that's super athletic. He's just a big guy. So that's another number 1 seed. North Carolina lost to NC State last night. They're on a little bit of a run here as of late, but they're not that scary of a team. You start looking at the 2 seeds. Tennessee, first round exit in their tournament in the SEC. Rick Barnes and company are usually a circus when it comes to March. They lost the Sweet 16 last year. They got the talent to make a big run, but they're not a world beater team. Arizona is such a fraud. I'm an Arizona fan. I grew up rooting for Arizona. They are such a fraud. Arizona, I'd be shocked if Arizona made the Sweet 16. If you're a 7, 10, or 15, you're licking your chops if you get Arizona. I mean, they haven't really done anything all season, and they've been so disappointing. Another 2 seed, Iowa State. They just won the Big 12. They've been on a big run. Iowa State, they got hammered by Houston in the regular season. I mean, again, go through it. There's not like there's these teams where, a couple years ago where you got Kentucky with these one and done rosters just loaded where you're going to need a miracle to beat them. It's wide open in the NCAA tournament this year. We're going to break that down later on in the show. In the final segment, we'll get into the latest of Joe Lunardi's bracketology, kind of break down wherever everybody's at, some of the bubble teams that are going to be crossing their fingers that they can make the NCAA tournament, as well as some, where the bid stealers were at. And there was a lot. And the NCAA wants to add more teams to this tournament. I don't think that's that great of an idea. Just as much as I've been a favorite of college football adding playoff spots, it's starting to get a little bit out of hand. They expanded again this week. I'll tell you what the latest is on that when we come back. This is the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3, The Fan. 9:24 on a Sunday morning. Show's gone by so quick, as they always do. I don't know how Matt Scraby only does an hour every day. I mean, that's just so fast. Braden Surprenant here on the Braden Surprenant Show. Thanks again for tuning in, making our day a part of yours. San Diego's #1 sports station, 97 through the fans. I look out the window. Beautiful Sunday morning. Happy StPatricksDay to all of you. I saw the USD Toreros baseball team, who will play Michigan here in a couple of hours. I think they play at 10, so not even that. 10 a.m. They're trying to go for a sweep of Michigan. They have some pretty cool St. Patrick's Day hats today. You get a green hat with the blue SD on it, which is pretty cool. I commented on Twitter. It was a pretty cool lid. Selection Sunday is today. I'm excited for it. Coming up at 3 o'clock. It's a great sports day. It's great. I mean, you're excited for Padres baseball. Coming up on Wednesday, you got Selection Sunday today. See where the Aztecs are going to be, as well as your other favorite college teams. You get to hear this song all the time. Which is great. Can't wait to give those updates with games coming up on Thursday and Friday. It's going to be fun, packed sports from here all the way through the summer. It's great. It's a nice little kickoff to the summer slate, late spring, summer slate. And we have made it through the awfulness that is January, February sports months. I want to talk about college football for a second, as the powers to be, they're so smart. These guys are so smart. I don't know why we never thought about this, us college football fans. Guys, what a great... Guys are so smart. College football playoff expanded to 12 teams. We already knew that. Guess what? All 9 FBS conferences in Notre Dame have agreed to the next college football playoff contract. This happened like under the radar last week, by the way. Will begin in 2026 and bring the sports postseason much closer to an expected 14-team field with guarantees for conference champions. The memorandum of understanding guarantees that the field will have at least 12 teams in 2026 and beyond, but sources indicate there is a strong preference for a 14-team field. That includes the 5 highest-ranked conference champions and the next 9 highest-ranked teams. Not good if you're a group of 5 team. Not good. Sources caution that the exact format is not finalized, and the Big Ten and SEC will have the bulk of control over that, but the others will be protected by parameters that have been put in place and can't be altered. College Football Executive Director Bill Hancock on Friday. Anything else regarding format is to be determined. This is a very important next step for the college football playoff, of course, and we do still have details to be finalized regarding the format, but I want to stress that the really good news is that football fans will continue to see the best teams in the country competing for a national championship on the playing field. The best teams. They're the best teams. This arrangement will also ensure the expanded access will continue to be in place. We firmly believe this about the importance of a competitive opportunity for more programs and more players and more fans. We're pleased to be in the position we're in, while we know there's still more work to be done. Thank you for the corporate answer, Mr. Bill Hancock. Commissioners in Notre Dame agree that the conference champions from the ACC, Big Ten, SEC, and Big 12, and the highest-ranked group of 5 champion would earn playoff berths, and Notre Dame will have protections that will survive regardless of the ultimate format. Well, that's good news for the group of 5 champion, as they will be included. So good news for San Diego State. But I do want to say, I find it very interesting that these powers to be, which I find incredibly incompetent sometimes, that tried to shove bowl games down our throat and tried to shove we'll have a bunch of reporters pick our national champion, and then well, we'll have this computer system pick the best 2 teams and they'll just play a championship game because we can't possibly do a playoff, to, well, I guess we could do a playoff, but we're going to pick the best 4 teams in our opinion, not necessarily fact. But we can't have any more than that. It's not possible. We can't. It's not lucrative, any of that stuff. They finally discovered that they can make money with playoff games. What took you so long? And so now they go from 4 teams to 12, and they're just adding teams. We're just adding teams. You have 14 now. I mean, are we going to get to the FCS level of 24? 24 teams? Look, I'm all in favor of expanding the college football playoff. I've been in favor of that since they started this dumb invitational with only 4 teams. That's not a playoff. That's a waste of everybody's time is what it is. Anything between 8 to 16 teams I think was valid, but we're going to add to 14 teams before we even play one snap of a 12-team playoff? Where is this going? What's the incentive here? Oh, I know. We need to get as many SEC and Big Ten schools in this tournament as humanly possible. Not because they are the best, but because they have the most fans. There it is. There it is. There it is. It's not that hard to figure out what college athletics is doing. And in reality, what television is doing. Without television making college athletics must-see entertainment, they would not be as popular as they currently are. That's an obvious statement. But it's grown to a point that TV, who is funding all of college athletics are funded by ESPN and Fox with a mix of CBS and NBC. That's who funds all of college athletics. You could talk about attendance numbers and jersey sales and that. Yes, that does factor in. But the reality is these football TV contracts fund the athletic departments at these universities. So TV is fronting the bill, which means TV gets to call the shots. What does TV care about? Do they care about the integrity of the game? Or do they care about how many people watch their product? I mean, think about it. If you're a television conglomerate and you are spending billions of dollars on college sports in order to broadcast these sports, do you want the 2 teams that have earned their way to a championship playing, or do you want 2 teams playing that will draw the most eyeballs, which will draw ratings, which gets you the most money and the best return on your investment? I think we all know the answer to that question. So again, they're expanding this playoff because TV wants more big games, and the conferences who are understanding this now, it's taken them forever to figure this out, that, oh, I don't know, maybe a playoff game is going to pique more people's interest than a meaningless exhibition between 2 teams in an undesirable location in the month of December, where if you win it, it doesn't matter. I wonder what TV would like more. I wonder how much more money we can make. So they're expanding the playoff. But they don't want to share the money. They want to keep the money. That's why the Big Ten and the SEC are calling on the shots. The only reason, and again, I have to mention this, because Big Ten and SEC fans think so highly of themselves, they don't understand the real reasoning behind why they are so successful in college athletics. We're just the best. I don't know how many times you got to hear that from SEC fans. We're just the best. We're the best teams. We just play the sport the best. No. You have the most fans. And in having the most fans, you got the biggest TV contracts, which means you're operating with more money than everybody else. You are the Yankees and the Dodgers of college athletics. And it has nothing to do with your guys' ability to recruit and have better talent. It's you have the most resources because you have the most fans. It's not a hard concept. So the Big Ten that got this big contract, is it because Nebraska football is legit? No. It's because so many people in the state of Nebraska have nothing better to do than watch the Cornhuskers play sports. And so they watch these games and pay premium for Big Ten Plus and drive TV ratings. That's why they got the big contract. Are there teams that are really good in those conferences? Yes, absolutely. But this whole narrative that the SEC is beyond better than everybody else as a whole from top to bottom is ludicrous. And I'm tired of listening to people talk about it. The SEC every year in football, and I've become an SEC fan because my brother goes to Tennessee. But the reality of it is the SEC is very top heavy with 2 to 3 teams. The Big Ten is top heavy with 2 to 3 teams. And then everybody else has massive fan bases that drive TV ratings. Nobody gives a crap about Minnesota playing Rutgers aside from Minnesota and Rutgers fans. Yet they get the big TV contract and drive the ratings, and everybody's like, oh, it's Big Ten football. No, it's not Big Ten football. It's because you have all of these fans. You have to understand what it is. That's why all of these schools and these conferences are making so much money. I want to know when they're going to start cutting loose the schools that aren't contributing their weight and they're just grandfathered in because they happen to be in the location of where all these schools are. Why is Vanderbilt in the SEC? To drive up their academic numbers? Because their baseball team's good? There's no reason to have Vanderbilt in the SEC. There's really no reason for Missouri to be in the SEC. Aside from maybe Missouri's got a bigger fan base. But I find it funny where schools like Missouri and Vanderbilt and like Mississippi State, remember that Mississippi State fan that was popping off about the playoff matchup because TCU got ran out of the building by Georgia? Like, oh my God, like this is what you can't do. This is the SEC, yada, 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 whatever. Dude, Mississippi State would never be able to get to that point anyway. Dude, stop talking. Shut up. Mississippi State has not done anything in the SEC except for baseball in years. Oh, wow. They had Dak Prescott a couple years ago. Give me a break. Give me a break. I'm all in favor of expanding the college football playoff, but I do not like the reasons why they're doing so and the reasons to cut out the small schools that don't have a big enough fan base. It's making college athletics more corporate. It's making college athletics more about entertainment than it is the sport, which is already what pro sports are. And to turn college athletics into professional sports, they're going to lose their luster. And it goes back to my argument about how the powers that be, these people that are making this decision to expand the playoff, again, not for good reasons, not for a pure process, are sprinting off a cliff, holding hands with the players that think they're going to get paid millions upon millions of dollars playing college athletics. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. They want to expand the college basketball tournament too. Again, not to get these schools like UC Irvine in the basketball tournament who got one bad game in a conference tournament after winning the conference and dominating the whole year, and now they're left out. No, it's to get the mediocre Power 5 schools in because they drive more TV ratings because they have more fans. I'm against that. We'll talk about that when we come back. We'll talk about that. Plus, we will talk about Selection Sunday one more time, kind of recap some of the Padres stuff we talked about in the first hour. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Final segment of the Braden Surprenant show on this St. Patrick's Day and Selection Sunday. I tell you what, I don't really own a lot of green. I talked about this earlier. I like St. Patrick's Day, but there's nothing about me that's Irish aside from my first name. My first name is Irish from the Wide Valley. But that's it. Other than that, I'm Italian and French. French-Canadian, I guess you could say. Very interested in, I was always interested in, the, what do they call that? Like family tree history, like the lineage and stuff like that. I mean, I've traced with Ancestry.com my family back to like early 1600s America, like first people over here from England, as well as the Italians that came over in the 1800s. I find that stuff fascinating because I feel like you need to learn about your ancestry to like learn a lot about yourself, right? So been super in on that, especially when I was a kid. But I have very limited Irish in me. So I'm not as dialed into St. Patrick's Day as the most. I also don't have a lot of green in general. I mean, my hat here, my Cathedral Honorable hat, which pays homage to Mario Fierro on one of the sides. There it is. Honorable and Mario Fierro. Has some green in it. But aside from that, not really too much green. So hopefully nobody pinches me. Yeah, Elisa. Yeah, pinch. You get pinched if you don't wear green on St. Patrick's Day. So maybe I'll have to rush home and put some green on before Leprechaun pinches me or something. I'm excited for this Selection Sunday show coming up at 3 o'clock. I think it's going to be awesome because not even Joe Lenardi knows what's going on at this point. And I've been monitoring a lot, obviously, for TCU. TCU, as of this morning at 1 a.m, was down to a last four in spot, and then magically an hour ago jumped up to a last four bye with a little bit of a cushion. They switched places with FAU, which I find interesting. I don't know why that changed at the last second. But here's the latest on the bracketology. Top four seeds expected in the NCAA tournament. UConn is the overall number 1. Purdue, number 2. Houston, 3. And North Carolina, 4 as the 4-1 seeds. Your 2 seeds projected by Joe Lenardi: Iowa State, Arizona, Tennessee, Marquette. 3 seeds: Auburn, Baylor, Creighton, and Illinois. 4 seeds: Duke, Alabama, Kansas, and Kentucky. Auburn and Illinois and Wisconsin and Florida are all playing today. Auburn's playing Florida, and Illinois is playing Wisconsin. Those games are about to get underway. Those are the only games left that involve power conferences before we get into Selection Sunday. And as Lenardi pointed out, there are no more bid stealers afoot. All the bid stealers have stolen their bids at this point in time. Mountain West Conference, 6 teams are going to be in the NCAA tournament. 6 teams. That's tied with the Big Ten. That's more than the ACC. Unfortunately, it's not going to be more than the ACC and the Pac-12 combined, like I mentioned on previous shows, because that was looking like it was going to be the case for a while. ACC expected to get 4, Pac-12 expected to get 4. Big East, only 3 teams potentially in the NCAA tournament. How about that? Mountain West doubling the amount of teams the Big East is going to provide in the NCAA tournament. That's something you probably would never comprehend as an Aztec fan 5, 6, 7 years ago. Big 12 is expected to get 9. SEC is expected to get 8. Big 10 and Mountain West 6. ACC and Pac-12 4. Big East 3. A-10 2. West Coast Conference 2. And the American are expected to get 2 teams. Everybody else is a 1-bin league. Here's what you're looking for today. If you're an Aztec fan, you're looking to see if they get a 5 or a 6 seed. That is most likely where they're going to be at. You are also paying attention to where the location is going to be because, again, the difference between a 5 and a 6, is it too much aside from in the second round you would play a 3 instead of a 4 if you get the 6 seed? I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. And the difference between, Auburn and Duke, Baylor and Bama, Creighton and Kansas, Illinois and Kentucky, I mean, those are the 3s and 4 comparisons. I think it's more about location. Hopefully the Aztecs could be in a spot where they're in Salt Lake City or Spokane instead of Omaha. That is something to look forward to. Or look for in Selection Sunday when they announce it. The other thing you want to look for if you're an Aztec fan is if they're in the West region, which means they would go through Los Angeles for the Sweet 16 and Elite 8 if they were able to make it that far. It's a lot better than flying to Boston or going to Detroit, which would be two undesirable locations for San Diego State. Dallas wouldn't be a bad consolation prize. That's not a far flight for San Diego or San Diego State. That's the latest on the bracketology. In terms of bubble teams, according to the latest from Joe Lunardi, final bracket prediction here. I guess he'll have one more. He'll have one more bracket prediction after the A10 and SEC championship games. But this was as of 11:30 this morning Eastern time. Last four byes, Texas A&M, Mississippi State, TCU, and Colorado State. That means they will not have to play in Dayton, Ohio. Last four in, Florida Atlantic, Colorado, Michigan State, and Oklahoma, with Oklahoma being the last team in the tournament, which would give the Big 12 9. I can also see the committee giving them 8 just for no particular reason. Just so they're tied with the SEC because of the bias and the fan bases and all that stuff. And I digress from what I was talking about earlier. Big first four out. St. John's is a new team to the first four out. They were expected to be one of the last four in. They've now dropped to a first four out spot. Rick Pitino and company. I'd be really interested to see if they make the NCAA tournament. But the first four out, St. John's, Virginia, Indiana State, Seton Hall. Next four out, Pitt, Providence, Kansas State, South Florida, who are most likely not going to make the NCAA tournament. That is what you're looking for on Selection Sunday. I'm going to tell you right now, we'll break it down tomorrow on Andy and Elston, but if you're looking at trying to find ways to fill out your bracket, this might be one of the hardest brackets to fill out. This might be one of the hardest brackets to fill out this year because it's such a crapshoot. And I was telling that to Chance in the chat earlier today. You don't know what you're going to get out of any of these teams. You don't know what you're going to get out of any of these schools. It's been crazy this season. It's been a great season of college basketball. I know they want to expand the NCAA tournament, almost double the amount of teams. I don't want to see that. The only way I'm interested in expanding the NCAA tournament is if you guarantee each conference gets two teams into the conference, two automatic bids into the NCAA tournament with the regular season winner and the tournament winner, and then you could determine if that team wins both, who would get the automatic bid, if you will, or maybe you forfeit an automatic bid if that's the case, and it opens something up. I think that would be interesting too. But if that's not the case, then I'm not really interested in making an appeal to have mediocre Power 5 teams into an NCAA tournament just because those conferences want a bigger payout. I'm not interested in that. I'm totally against the big schools breaking away from all the other D1 schools. Even though it's probably inevitable, I'm against that wholeheartedly. Ridiculous. It starts with the college football ranks. It's starting to leak into college basketball. I'm done with the stop making sports about sports and only about entertainment where TV gets to call the shots. But you know what? They're fitting the bill. So I guess it makes a little bit of sense. Do want to recap kind of the show today. It's been a fun show. Thanks again for joining us today. You can follow me on social media at @B_SURP on Twitter, Instagram, and on TikTok. You can also follow my YouTube page at BSurp, as well as all of our 97.3 The Fan accounts, which are broadcasting this show live on the YouTube feed, at 97.3 The Fan on YouTube, at 97.3 The Fan SD on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Thanks again for all of you guys making my day a part of yours as we get to Selection Sunday today. We got a lot of great sports today. It's USD baseball. Shout out to those guys. They are trying to go for a sweep over Michigan in about 6 minutes or so. That game will get underway at about 10 o'clock. They won the first two games, hammered the Wolverines yesterday. Absolutely hammered the Wolverines yesterday. But we'll see what the Toreros got. I do want to mention Padres played earlier this morning at 3 a.m. They beat Korea 1-0. They will be back in action tonight at 8 p.m. Pacific time. You can hear the game with Jesse and Tony right here on 97.3 The Fan. They're going to play the LG Twins in another exhibition game, and then they're going to be able to take on the Dodgers coming up on Wednesday. 3 a.m. broadcast. We will be out at 7 Mile Casino for a live watch party. And then Ben and Woods will take over the airwaves down there. Coming up on Wednesday. Should be a fun day of Padres baseball. Hopefully they start the year off with a W over the Los Angeles Dodgers, kind of kickstart the year. Also, we'll have coverage of the game on Thursday, also at 3 a.m. And then Sunday of next week, we will have FanFest all day, where all of our shows will be live and at FanFest for 97.3 The Fan. Don't know if I'm going to be doing my show here in the morning first or not, but and I'm willing to do that. But we'll see all you guys at FanFest next Sunday as well. So thanks again for making my day a part of yours. Really appreciate it. Padres baseball coming up at 8 p.m. Pacific time. We got Selection Sunday today. It's going to be a great sports day in America's finest city. Enjoy your St. Patrick's Day. Try not to get pinched. Wear your green. And we'll talk to you next week on the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local sports talk on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.